Hi everyone, welcome to your health transformation where you get tips from the experts to help with your total health and happiness. And today I'm so pleased to be talking with Tamra Mercieca, and we're talking sexual health. Now Tamra Mercieca, she is the playful peach who created yoga for the vagina so women all over the world could heal their minds and body and journey deep into self-love. Tamra works as a relationship and self-love therapist within her company, Getting Naked. She's published 2 books and has been interviewed on Hay House Radio, a raft of TV shows, as well as featuring in over a dozen mainstream magazines. Now, Yoga for the Vagina is a restorative and healing yoga practice that teaches the art of self-love whilst at the same time keeping your sexual organs ripe and resilient well into your twilight years. Designed specifically for the female body, this lush practice uses a jade egg to help release trauma and conditioning. So women can resensitize their vaginal tissue and experience deep, heartfelt pleasure. Welcome, Tamra.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. This is a really interesting topic, and I admit I have no clue what it's all about, so I'm really interested to talk to you today. So I'm an absolute virgin jade egg user, so I have no idea what it does, but so firstly, can you let us know how it works and what it does? But before we go into that, what was your journey to discover the jade egg and create yoga for the vagina?
Yeah, so I started exploring a lot of sexual health bits and pieces because I actually experienced an orgasm on the massage table once and was like, whoa, how did that happen? Embarrassing. Wow. And so that's what sort of started my journey into...
I want what you're having.
And so I started really exploring like Taoism and Tantra and, all these different body healing modalities. And I came across the Jade Egg, and it was actually about the time that I was diagnosed with SIN3 cervical changes. So I got an abnormal pap smear result and was diagnosed as being the stage before cancer. And so at the time, the gynecologist wanted to rush me into surgery and do an operation that potentially would have left me unable to conceive. And at that point, I didn't have any children, and I definitely wanted to have a child. So, after a lot of fear, I did 2 different things. And one was doing the techniques that I do with clients to help them heal themselves of depression, anxiety, body illnesses. So it was working with the subconscious mind, helping them clear the root cause of the physical ailment, because when we have a thought, it triggers a chemical response in the body. And so if that thought is positive, it guides the body to be well. If that thought's negative, it actually makes us sick. And so if we're able to change those thinking patterns, then we're actually able to create a space in the body that it can actually do what it's designed to do, and that's heal itself.
Right.
So that was a big part of the healing. But also I started to use the Jade Egg, which I'll show you. So it's an egg that's made of jade.
It's actual jade. It's real jade.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose the one thing I want to probably emphasize here, it's nephrite jade. And if you are going to use a jade egg, you do want to use nephrite because it's extremely hard. It's got a very packed tight structure, which means it's not porous. And you definitely don't want to be putting any stones in your vagina that are porous, otherwise they'll collect bacteria.
Yeah.
So I started using the jade egg in my vagina. So you learn how to sip it inside.
Yeah.
And then once it's there, you do various exercises with it that help bring fresh blood to the area, that help strengthen the pelvic floor, that help resensitize the vaginal canal. And essentially it's balancing out all of the sexual systems in that area, so then that it can actually start to heal. And so between doing my mental clearings and the Jade Egg, 3 months later, I went back to this gynecologist and was given a clean bill of health, him claiming it was a miracle.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's sort of what started me on that road. And when I saw what, the Jade Egg could do from that healing perspective, then I went, whoa, okay, I've got to explore this so much more, and then just threw myself into it.
How did you discover the Jade Egg?
So I was working with a sex therapist in Canada, and she introduced it to me, and then I just started researching, and there's not a lot out there. It's sort of, it's got its roots in Taoism. Queens and concubines in ancient China were said to use the jade egg internally to help keep their sexual organs ripe and resilient, and to also deliver beautiful pleasure to the emperor. But yeah, there's not a lot written about it, and I think also it's sort of being passed down through the male generations as well. So there's a few teachers out there that are teaching it in a really beautiful way. There's a few people that have adopted it and taken it to extremes. Some people may have heard of vaginal weightlifting.
No, but it sounds painful.
Exactly. That one woman holds the record. She can lift like 14 kilos with her vagina.
Wow.
But we can take all things to extreme. But the thing we need to remember is that we don't need to be lifting weight. In fact, lifting weight creates tension in the pelvic area, and when we have tension in that area, that's what creates illness and disease. So please don't do any vaginal weightlifting.
So how does it heal? And I'll read here, because on your website you've got, it can help with a whole host of things. It can help with menopause, incontinence, abnormal cells in the sexual organs, as what you experienced, prolapsed sexual organs. It'll also balance out PMS and hormonal disturbances, get your libido back, heal scarring and numbing from operations such as hysterectomies, and I've had one of those.
Yeah.
It can also help with infertility and even give us a natural facelift. Well, that's all for that, with a jade egg as well as give you pleasure. I mean, hey, who would be into that?
Totally. Essentially what you're doing when you're using the jade egg is you're actually helping to balance out the vaginal canal and the sexual area. So you're bringing fresh energy to the area. And, if we look at Chinese medicine, that's just one example of how, the way that they work is that if there's stagnant energy in the body, if energy is not moving, then that's where illness and disease are created.
So we're talking qi? The qi,
qi energy,
the meridians, the chakras.
Yes.
Okay.
And we actually have reflexology points in our vaginal canal. And so what we're doing is we're activating those reflexology points, as well as resensitizing the area, bringing fresh blood to the area. So all of a sudden the vagina starts to balance. And that's why, there's so many different benefits that all seem sort of different from different groups. But essentially, if the body is balanced, if the vagina is balanced and energy is flowing freely, then it's free to heal of whatever the particular ailment is.
Yeah, right. So we're clearing out the energy, we're refreshing the blood to that area. It's a little like exercise for the vagina, isn't it? That's like,
Totally. Yeah. And, a lot of women also, they hold a lot of shame in their body. And when we hold negative emotion in the body, that creates tension and numbness. And so what you're doing is you're directly going straight to that area where women hold a lot of this shame and helping to unravel that shame so then that the body is free to, again, do what it's meant to do.
Yeah. Now that's really interesting, because to help heal trauma and conditioning with something as simple as a jade egg, I mean, that's really amazing. Can you just, and I know you said how it works, but how, in the specific case of trauma and conditioning, is it just because it's releasing the energy in that area, or is it doing something else?
You've got to really make sure that you're using it in a really nurturing way as well. So it's not just about popping it in there and then going about your day. That's, you might get some benefits, but essentially one of the most important exercises is actually training the vagina to sip the egg inside. Because a lot of women have lost that ability, those muscles, they atrophy because we're so used to having things pushed in there all the time, tampons, penises, dildos, fingers. And so you lose that ability to sip. It's a bit like, if we didn't use our arm for a couple of years, that those muscles, they'd atrophy.
Yeah.
And so same with our vagina. So we actually start to learn how to reactivate those muscles so that we can sip things inside. So all of a sudden there's new muscles that are being used. There's fresh blood coming to that area. And then once it's inside, we're not just squeezing like a lot of people doing Kegels. we're actually engaging the whole pelvic parfait. I like to call it a pelvic parfait because, you know, the contents of our pelvic bowl, it's layers of tissue and fascia and organs and muscles. And in order to be able to keep those really healthy, we need to be engaging all of that area. So the way that I teach it is when we do a squeeze, we're not just squeezing the vagina, we're squeezing the whole area, we're engaging the whole lot. And what's more important is the release. Because when we release, we're actually allowing tension to dissolve. We're allowing ourselves to be more surrendered and for energy to flow freely so then that the body can heal, but also so we can experience more pleasure. We need to be in a surrendered, relaxed state.
How did you create this whole sequence into a yoga? You don't often associate yoga with the vagina area, but
yeah. So I suppose when I first started exploring it, I'm like, it's like I'm doing vagina in, you know, yoga for my vagina.
Yeah.
And I also play drums, and so I like to amuse myself sometimes. So I was like, I wonder if I could do like paradiddles and double stroke rolls in my vagina. And so I started having a little play. And what I realized was that you can actually divide the vaginal canal up into 12 different quadrants. And
wow.
Yeah. And you can learn how to contract and release each of those quadrants independent of each other, giving you beautiful tone and beautiful dexterity. I've totally forgotten what your question was. Why did I mix it with yoga?
How did that come about? Yeah.
So for me, when I was doing these different things, it's like I am doing yoga for my vagina. And then I was doing a lot of yoga at the time and exploring different disciplines. And I just felt there were so many beautiful ways to marry it together because, you know, we don't just want to be exercising our vagina. We want to be exercising different parts of the body. And there are specific poses that send energy to our sexual organs. So I started incorporating these different poses that are actually extremely potent for women's health. And, you know, what I discovered about yoga was that it was originally developed for men and women weren't even allowed to do it.
Oh.
Yeah. And so...
always the way. We're always second runner-up, aren't we?
Totally. And so the more I explored, the more I realized was traditional yoga, it's not actually designed for the female body, and we need to adapt it and change it so then that it actually supports our sexual health. And so that's what I started exploring. How can I create something that is healing from the inside out, but we're also getting a full body workout at the same time in a way that supports our womanly parts.
Yeah.
We're meant to have a beautiful curve down our back. As soon as we start ironing out our curves, then our reproductive organs, they start to dislodge from the abdominal wall, and that's when we start to experience prolapse. So really learning how to actually hold the body and move the body in a way that is for females.
That's an amazing thing. So that prolapse happens when the lower back, the lower arch, when it's
so when we start to iron out that, I mean, that's one of the big causes.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of us are told, oh, we have to stand really straight. So we tuck in our booty and we tuck in our stomach, and then we lose that arch. Or women are wearing high heels, and again, that irons out that curve. And you know, we see all these billboards. We're meant to have really flat stomachs, but the thing is, as soon as we start sucking in our stomach, we're weakening our sexual organs.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm always doing that, so I don't have a little pooch.
Totally. And when I discovered this, I'm writing about it, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it. Let it go. Let it all out.
Wow, that's really interesting. I'm going to relax it right now. Let it all hang out.
Absolutely. We're designed to have even just a nice little roundness there. That's natural, and that's part of body acceptance and self-love, and that's why, you know, yoga for the vagina is very much a practice in self-love, because we're learning to accept our body as it is.
Yeah. And that's a big thing with a lot of us. You know, we've got a lot of advertising and a lot of images that tell us how we should look, and it can be very, detrimental.
It's very hard to escape because it's everywhere.
And not only that, there's Photoshop, and it's very hard to see a natural body or face in a magazine nowadays without it being, there are some out there, but a lot of them are touched up, and it's something we can't compete with, and we can't relate to, and we shouldn't try to compete with it.
Yeah. And it was funny, I did a yoga shoot, just a photo shoot a couple of months ago, and we did one naked shot just from the back of me in a pose. You couldn't see anything. And she's like, oh, don't worry, we can tuck in your booty a little bit and smooth it out. And I'm like, no, I want to keep it. That's me.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit surprised. And I'm like, no, that's who I am.
Well, you've got some really nice shots on your website, and I love the whole era that you're about. It's just very glamorous, and it's also a confident era, isn't it?
I love it because it doesn't matter what your size is, you're always going to look good in a pencil skirt.
Yeah.
It's really about emphasizing those beautiful hips, those beautiful breasts, or those whatever your asset is. It's really about embracing the body as it is, and I think that's why I fell in love with it. So.
I love it. And so what was the naked shot for?
Well, I don't know where I'll use it at this point, but I just thought I'd like to do a naked shot from the back, and we'll see. One day I'll release it somewhere.
I think it's really nice to get to that stage where you feel comfortable doing that and having that for posterity too. In years ahead, you'll look back and go, wow, I did that, and I look really good, even no matter what shape you're at. But to be comfortable with where you're at right now, I think is really important. And to have a photo really says that, yeah, I'm comfortable with who I am, and here I am, world.
And it's funny because, like when I started exploring this practice and creating it, my aim was to help heal the body of physical illnesses, to help us release shame, to help awaken to pleasure. But one of the side effects that I wasn't expecting was that it improves body image. So, like we've been talking about, a lot of women they can't accept their body. And I watched a documentary not long ago, I think it was called Embrace. And and their stats were saying that 90% of women hate their body, which just shows, not dislike, hates their body.
Yeah, strong word.
Yeah, which shows how big a problem this is. And every woman that I speak to that does yoga for the vagina, she's just like, I'm just feeling more at home in my body, and I'm just so much more comfortable, and my body's changing a little bit because of it, but it's just I feel really comfy, and they just start to fall in love with their body. And I think that is one of the biggest gifts that people don't generally come to the practice for, but something that they love.
To be at home in your body is a huge thing. As you say, 90% of women hate. And hate's a really strong word, their body. To go around spending that energy on ourselves in such a negative way, it does affect us not only physically but mentally, and affects everything we do, from our relationship with our family, our friends, at work. So it's a huge thing that you're doing, and it's fantastic. Now, how long is a session? And how long do you keep the Jade Egg in? And
yeah, sure. So with the full program that I offer, you start doing half-hour sessions, and that's enough. There's a big focus on the sipping, because that will be probably one of the most difficult yet one of the most rewarding exercises you'll ever learn. Yeah. So it goes for about half an hour.
So what exercise is that?
The sipping exercise.
Sipping.
Yep. And then there's probably about 3 or 4 other poses that we do in the half-hour sequences. And you might spend 3-6 months doing the half-hour sequences. It's you go at your own pace, whatever feels good for you, and then you move up to the 1-hour sequences. And so then that starts to really start to work a lot of different body parts. Now, when I designed the program, I also realized that a lot of women don't have a lot of time, so that's totally cool.
Yeah.
So I created a heap of little mini sequences that go from anywhere from 1 minute to 20 minutes. So you can work your pelvic parfait in 7 minutes, and you can do different things. You're not using the Jade Egg in those ones,
Right.
because you do need to allow the time to do a breast massage, to do a vulva massage, to really warm your body up before you sit the Jade Egg in,
Right.
because that's just honouring your body and helping your body get ready to accept the egg in. You know, ideally with sex, you wouldn't just stick it in there, because otherwise it does create trauma in the vagina.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's massaged and there's breast stimulation, then the body helps open the vagina and you start to lubricate naturally.
It also allows us just to have some time to ourselves, for ourselves, even just with ourselves, which is not something that a lot of us spend time doing. You know?
No, a lot of people are doing kids, for their family, for their friends, or just go, busy. And if we're not focusing on us, we're not allowing space for healing. We need to have some sort of self-love activity that we do. This is really beautiful because it's soft and it's nurturing. You get to be with you. Stuff will rise to the surface. Stuff will come up, but it comes up in a really soft and gentle way, and you're never going to leave a session traumatized because you go at your own pace.
So if you in a session and you do feel some emotional, trauma come to the surface, how do you deal with that?
I suggest journaling about it. So doing a little journaling afterwards, because that will just help sort of empty out the garbage, help get some clarity around things. And that way you can go, okay, that's what that was about. Okay, I understand. Yeah. I've had people say to me, I did this sequence and I burst into tears afterwards and it felt so good.
Just a real emotional release.
Yeah. And not everyone's like, I didn't experience that at all. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Some people experience it like that. Some people it'll be more subtle. So the best thing is to go in without any expectations. Yeah.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And just listen. It's a real practice in listening to your body, because our body is communicating to us constantly. And most of us don't realize that until we get struck with some horrible disease or illness. And the body's been sending these little signals to us, but we've been too busy to actually go, oh, what's that about? What's that about? And so practice helps us check in and go, what is that about? And you can start to have that dialogue with your body, which then opens the way for healing.
So it kind of allows you to be in the moment, be more mindful of what's happening and what your body is bringing up for you at that moment.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important, to let the viewers know that if something is coming up, your body is ready to release it. Your body is actually ready to let go of it. So don't be afraid of these emotions that do arise, because you're actually ready to handle it right now. You're actually, your body is bringing it up for a reason. You can release it and you can experience more joy and happiness and health.
Yeah, because you're never going to be given anything that you're not ready to work through. And a lot of us, a lot of people tend to go through struggling, and they struggle a lot because they don't want to look at those emotions. But it's not the emotion that is causing the pain, it's the resistance to looking at the emotion that causes the pain. As soon as we actually lean into the emotion, we actually get clarity and we feel much more lighter, because we've actually felt into it. Because those suppressed emotions, the shame, it's because we've suppressed it in our body and we haven't felt it when it actually came up the first time. So if we actually start to feel into our feelings as they come up, then they don't get stored in the body. And it's only when we store them in the body that then they create illness and disease. So it's a really nice practice to get okay with feeling a little bit uncomfy. Because that's what leads to healing.
So it's a release. It really is an emotional release that affects the physical body.
Yeah. So you're working on all different levels, from your emotions to the physical to the energetic body. Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's like a total. You're really working on the total health of the body and the mind. Now, just going back to those 12 areas of the vagina. How on earth are there 12? How do you fit 12?
So if we have a look at our finger, we'll notice that there's 3 different sections, yeah?
Yeah.
So we've got right and left, front and back of each of those sections, and that gives you 12.
Oh my gosh. Wow. When you explain it like that, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And you actually exercise each of those areas. I'm still blown away. That's
a more advanced exercise.
Advanced practice, right?
Yeah, you'd probably be practicing for a good year before you start building that sort of dexterity. Because even for some women, just squeezing, they don't feel anything to start off with.
Yeah.
Because, through childbirth, through just pelvic weakness, that we've got to build those muscles. If you haven't been using them, they do atrophy. And that's where we have incontinence. And it's amazing because incontinence affects, 60% plus of women.
Really?
Yeah, it's huge. And a lot of women just don't talk about it. Yet what I found is within a couple of weeks of doing this practice, women's, it starts to ease. And as they continue, it completely heals. So it's very quick, which is something that amazed me as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and doctors, when, us women get to a certain age, doctors like to tell us, well, you should be doing your pelvic floor muscles. And who does them? I don't. I've had a hysterectomy. I still don't do them. But with the Jade Egg, you're effectively working your pelvic floor and your whole
in a much more female-friendly way. The problem with Kegels is that they were actually designed by a man to cure male incontinence.
Right.
They never actually designed for the female body. And, like I've mentioned, the female body is so very different, and we need to be engaging all of those muscles. And if you're just engaging the pubococcygeal muscle, then essentially you're creating weakness in the other muscles. And so what happens is then those reproductive organs start to dislodge and start to prolapse, and that's where we see women having sexual organs quite literally falling out of their vaginal canal. And if we look at the stats, 44% of women will experience some form of prolapse sexual organ in their lifetime, and 1 in 3. Yeah, 44%.
My gosh.
And 1 in 3 women will need a hysterectomy by the time they're 60. So, the stats are huge, and all of this is preventable. We just need to be actually working with that part of the body in a way that is healthy and nourishing, and not just squeezing, doing 300 Kegels a day, because that will actually create more tension. And as soon as you're creating tension in that area, then you're creating weakness in the abdominal, all the sexual organs.
Yeah, this is so fascinating. Have you ever heard of the Jade Egg helping with fibroids?
Yeah, because essentially what you're doing, like I said, you're balancing that area. So as soon as you start balancing that area, then the fibroids naturally heal.
I could have used the Jade Egg a few years ago, Tamra. That saved me a lot of that hysterectomy is a tough
and it's
surgery to get over.
And a lot of women come to me and they've already had a hysterectomy, or they've already experienced the prolapse sexual organs. It's never too late. That's the thing. Wherever you're at, the practice is really fantastic for both preventing, but also for healing from whatever you've gone through, and creating more sensitivity, more resilience in that area again.
So that Jade Egg can actually help with the numbness.
Yes.
Feel down it.
Yeah, because there'll be numbness because there's vaginal scarring, and scarring around that whole area. And also because, when you have surgery, there's a lot of stuff going on that, the body doesn't really like that much. So it does heal that whole area and help, obviously you wouldn't be able to have children again if you had a hysterectomy because you don't have the parts, but energetically they're still there. So you can still connect in with those womanly parts of yourself. Yeah.
I'll try and keep this story quick, because when you're talking about energetic, after my history, I've always been a creative person, but after my hysterectomy, my creativity went through the roof. Like, it was a real need to create things. I had been thinking about writing a cookbook for many years, and after this hysterectomy, like, right, I'm doing it. I'm just getting it done. I have to do this. And I started doing other design projects that I'd never done before, and it was a really marked difference to before, when I had the fibroids, and they were quite huge in and around my vagina. So I had to have them removed because they were really painful. But when you're talking about energy and removing the blockages, which effectively that was a physical removal of the blockage, I felt that energy surge and that creativity in the uterus. That's where the creativity houses, isn't it? That's the creative.
They say that's our creative center, and
yeah,
not only do we birth babies from that area, we birth creative projects.
Yeah.
So we want to be keeping that area fit and healthy, not just because we want to have children or we want to experience pleasure, but so we can be creative in the world, so we can do those jobs, those careers that we're so passionate about.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, it was an absolute, real huge change. I just had this real urgent need and overwhelming need to create things. So if I had only known about you and the Jade Egg earlier, so,
I know, but we can't have regret.
No, that's right. We're moving forward, and I can use it now to help heal what's happened. So
Absolutely.
now, how do people come to you? Like, do you have a normal yoga class, or do you have a DVD? How do we learn about it?
So it's all online, because a couple of years ago I started, because it became my personal practice, and then I was sharing it with my clients and I was seeing all these amazing results, and then I started touring it at festivals, and every single time I ran this workshop it would pack out and we'd have to turn women away. So, we'd have 50, 100 women doing yoga for the vagina together. Awesome. And that really blew my mind. And that's when I realized I needed to be able to make it available to women everywhere. So I made it into an online course. And I do feel it is a practice that's really quite sacred and special for you. So I do encourage women to do it on their own. Set up a beautiful space, put a nice lamp or some candles on, make it a really beautiful ritual for you, and then do your beautiful practice. So it is all online. Yeah.
Love that. So, and do you do it every day?
Up to you. If you're totally dedicated and committed, absolutely do it every day. To see results, you'd want to be doing a practice 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay. And once you've done your practice, how do you clean the Jade Egg?
Yeah. So you rinse it under warm water. You never use soap, just because any soap bacteria can sort of create, the flora in the vagina is very sensitive. So we don't want to be putting
some of those soaps are really harsh, aren't they? You smell them, they're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, when you first get it, you might want to put it in boiling water. I always put some Celtic sea salt in it just to help cleanse and recharge the stone. And you probably want to do that once a month. But just rinsing it under hot water each time you use it, it does have a hole. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah.
Where you thread it with unwaxed dental floss, so then that you can easily pull it out until you build the muscles to lay your egg. And so you just want to make sure you blow through the hole and make sure that there's nothing that's being caught in the hole. You can also put grapefruit extract and things like that in water to do a little soak.
Yeah. Right. Okay, well, that's fabulous. We've talked through so much. Is there anything else you would like the viewers to know about?
I think we've covered all the good stuff.
Yeah, we've covered some really good stuff.
I mean, maybe, from a pleasure perspective, a lot of women, they need external stimulation of the clitoris in order to reach orgasm during intercourse. Yeah. But the vaginal canal is full of yummy pleasure spots. We have the G-spot, we have the cervix, which is what will open you up to those full body orgasms, which a lot of women sort of liken to spiritual awakenings. So when you're actually using the Jade Egg, it's massaging that area, and it actually helps resensitize so you can experience those orgasms. So it's not that women don't have a G-spot or anything like that. Yeah. It's just the G-spot is asleep and you need to wake it back up. And so when we wake up, then we can actually start to experience a much yummier pleasure.
So it's just like exercising our body. We don't use a muscle, it's going to atrophy or shrink, or it's not going to be as strong or as responsive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so it's just the same.
Yeah.
And more pleasure in the world, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. we're meant to experience pleasure, and it's just societal conditioning that sort of trains us against pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose the other thing that I would mention would be that one of the, I have a lot of women coming to me after birth to help heal the vagina of any damaged nerve endings and loss of elasticity and libido and things like that. But one of the other groups that is really common is women that have gone through menopause, because what they find is their vagina starts to dry up and sex becomes extremely painful. Yet when you start using the Jade Egg, it massages the glands that run along the vaginal canal and helps them to self-lubricate easily, so they get juicy at all of the right times again. So I've had a lot of women in their 60s and 70s say, oh my God, my sex life is back. Thank you.
Well, that's wonderful, because, life doesn't stop just because we're another year older.
No.
And for us women, we have a lot of body changes that we go throughout our lives, and menopause is just another one of those. So you don't have to put up with what we know menopause to be. You don't have to, the people with menopause, they also they also go to the doctor. They get some pills, don't they?
Yeah, and hormone therapies and things like that. But because you're balancing out the hormones when you do this practice, you can actually sail through menopause if you're doing a practice like this. Yeah.
So it's a really natural way to deal with menopause.
Yeah.
So really, you might just sail through menopause really easily with a Jade Egg and the yoga practice.
Yeah.
Well, that's something to look forward to, because it won't be too long for me. A few more years and I'll be there. But I'm glad I learned about this now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're an 18-year-old or whether you're a 75-year-old, you can still introduce more pleasure and more healing into your body. It's, wherever you're at, it's perfect.
To learn self-acceptance at a young age would be even better than to live, into your 30s and 40s and 50s and beyond, and then try to deal with the emotions and the feelings. So for sure, get into it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
and start accepting yourself, and start treating pleasure not as a guilty thing, but as something that we're entitled to.
Yeah.
And something we're born for. We're born for pleasure. We're born to reproduce, and part of that is having pleasure. So it's a natural thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The body in pure pleasure, it cannot harbour any illness or disease. So it's not even just for our personal satisfaction. It's also when we experience pleasure, the body triggers off all these amazing chemicals in the body that help heal.
Yeah. And that's what we want. We want the amazing chemicals. We want the positive mindset, so we don't let dis-ease enter the body.
Absolutely.
And the mind.
Yeah.
So I want you now to tell the viewers about your beautiful free gift.
Yes. So if you go to yogaforthevagina.com.
And I'll put the link below the video.
Yeah, beautiful. So you'll see that you can just pop your email in and you'll get sent the starter sequence for free. And so the starter sequence is just a 20-minute sequence that can introduce you to the Jade Egg, get you doing a few different poses, so then that you can get a nice taste for the practice.
Awesome. Do we get the Jade Egg from you? Do you have that on your website?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Are there different sizes, or the one size fits all?
So I always say just go with the medium size. The vagina actually adapts to the egg. So whether you've gone through childbirth, whether you feel that you've got a small vagina or a loose vagina, the vagina will actually adapt. There's a lot of marketing out there that says that you need 3 different sizes, and this is for this and this is for this, but it's actually how you use the egg that is the most powerful, not the size of the egg.
Right. So it's not the size that matters.
No, it's not.
Not in this case.
No. And also, if you're not buying it from me, just make sure that you do buy it from someone that is selling authentic nephrite jade. There's quite a trend at the moment for selling all these different crystals for vaginal use. But to my understanding and my research, the only one that is actually safe for the vagina is nephrite jade.
Because the different crystals can react differently to our skin, and especially that area is very sensitive.
And a lot of people have been getting into like the rose quartz crystals, and the problem is it's such a brittle crystal that women have been known to have them shatter. Yeah. And so, you know, if you look at rose quartz, often there's little cracks going through it.
I actually have some. I have some here.
Yeah.
The heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful to have, you know, for any other healing things, but not to put inside of yourself.
Yeah. So the jade, the nephrite jade is very hard, very compact.
Very dense structure. You could drop it from a story up and it's not going to shatter.
Wow.
Yeah. It's they say it's harder than steel. So it's a very, very amazing stone. Yeah.
Well, Tamra, I've had an absolute ball talking to you. I've had an absolute Jade Egg talking to you today.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
It's really, and I wish it wasn't as taboo as it is. You know, saying the word vagina is it's a natural part of our body. We shouldn't be afraid of saying or embarrassed.
Yeah.
And, you know, we should have that freedom within ourselves to explore our own pleasure and healing by using, you know, the Jade Egg and yoga for the vagina. So thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. And thank you, viewers. I hope you learned as much as I did today, because I knew absolutely nothing. So thank you again. And viewers, I'll put the link to Tamra's website below, so please go and visit and sign up and to get that free sequence. I'm going to do it right now. It's awesome.
Let me know how you go.
Yeah, I will. I'll go. So the medium. So you do sell different sizes, but you recommend the medium. Okay, brilliant. One. Okay, great. So we don't even have to think. We just go and. Okay.
One option. That's it. One egg. And if the nephrite jade will last you a lifetime, it's so hardy. Yeah.
So all we do is we clean it with salt water, Himalayan salt. It's a natural salt.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And if you do buy it from me, you do get a full instruction card and everything about how to care for your eggs. So
brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And viewers, please check out Tamra. And thank you for watching. And thank you, Tamra. Thank you for giving of your time today and talking with me.
Thank you.
It's been a great pleasure. So thank you. And I'm going to go to your website right now.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, thanks. You have a good day, Tamra.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.